What's going on? That's Textbook Sports Squad. It is Friday, September 22nd, 2023. It's Payday Friday. It's a feel-good Friday. The weekend is fast approaching. College football is fast approaching. NFL is fast approaching. Baseball is almost ending its season. We'll see what the playoffs look like in October. But in that month of October, everything comes together. You have baseball postseason. College football is getting into the thick of things. NFL is getting into the thick of things. And that's when we start to realize which teams are contenders and which teams are pretenders. Couldn't be any more happier about this Friday. And of course, as y'all know, let's get into this episode. That's Textbook. So on this particular podcast episode and in the podcast going forward, I'm going to be designating certain coverage to certain sports. For like instance, on Monday, the NFL games have wrapped up. I'll be giving them coverage. Wednesdays, especially with the NBA season not that far away, with preseason starting in early October, I'll be trying to designate that to Wednesdays to NBA coverage. On Friday, since college football is the next day, I'll be designating that to college football coverage. Still some things to work out and kind of test drive. But I'll start today with college football. The biggest matchup, the biggest story in sports, the Colorado Buffaloes going up against the number 10th ranked Oregon Ducks. It's going to be the biggest test for Colorado, and the line is pretty absurd. They have Colorado as massive underdogs. Now, I understand this because this is the biggest test that Colorado's had to face, and when you look at their defense, they really struggled to guard the crossing route against Colorado State. They did better against Nebraska, but Nebraska and Jeff Sims also really lost that game themselves with all of their continued mishaps, whether that's a mishap on getting the ball, receiving the snap, or giving the ball to the running back, and there's some kind of miscommunication there. So although the defense did look good from what they did looked like in week one, this is still going to be their biggest test. How are they going to respond? What is that defensive line going to look like? Because if that defensive line can pressure Bo Nix, that's a massive plus, and that improves their chances of winning this football game. So they have to establish the line of scrimmage defensively. And then offensively, they have to establish the line of scrimmage. But I like Dylan Edwards, their running back. I'm looking at what Texas Tech did against Oregon, and I like that matchup for them just because they had a lot of rushing lanes, somewhat creativity for Texas Tech on offense. And I really am liking this Colorado offensive coordinator. He's disguising and dialing up some unique looks, especially and more particularly the one to that 2-point conversion to tie the game was really impressive. But also in overtime, I believe it was their first or second touchdown to the tight end. They're running to their right. They have the tight end coming across the field. It looks like he's going to be running a crossing route, but about 5-7 yards into his route, he cuts up the field to the seam, wide open for a touchdown. So I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game just because both these defenses are going to have some tests. So for the Colorado to be massive underdogs, I believe it's a 21.5-point favorites to Oregon. I don't agree with that line, and I think this is a game that the Colorado Buffaloes can definitely win. Considering the types of tests they had, now they're not going to have Travis Hunter Jr. That's a significant blow to the team considering what he does offensively and defensively. It's going to be a larger blow defensively than it will be offensively just because I really like what I'm seeing from their tight end. I really like what I'm seeing from Jimmy Horn Jr. I really like what I'm seeing from Xavier Weaver. I think those guys themselves will step up to the plate. And then, of course, their running back, Dylan Edwards. Really impressed with how he's looked. So defensively, they're going to have to do something. And like Coach Prime said, they need to put together a complete game on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, and special teams. That's what it's going to take for them to win this game. But I don't see them as being this massive underdog especially considering they did beat TCU. Many people didn't even think or dream of this team starting out as 3-0 and being the type of miraculous story and team that they are so far. But I'm going to, like everyone else, I'm going to keep my eyes glued to this team, this game. And I'm going to predict that Colorado wins in a very close shootout. So let me know, my listeners, what do you think? Is Colorado going to cover? Is the line going to be covered? And is Colorado going to win this football game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, Alabama is on upset alert. They're a team that many are thinking, if they lose this football game, the Saban era is eclipsing. It maybe even comes to a close. I don't think so, just because the way Nick Saban leaves, or the way I envision Nick Saban leaving, is him either outright retiring or just resigning. Nick Saban, with all he's done to the Alabama football program, he's not going to get fired. Now, I don't think they're going to... I'm not like dead set on this team losing the football game. I think they're going to win this football game. Ole Miss is going to make it tight. They're going to make it tough for Alabama. We already know Lane Kiffin is foaming at the mouth for this matchup. They probably should have won last year had it not been for a couple of their mistakes. But if Alabama starts Jalen Milroe, I think they have a chance. Now, that's saying a lot considering how Jalen Milroe has looked. He hasn't looked good. Practically all of the Alabama quarterbacks this season have not looked good at all. But with Jalen Milroe, you saw this last week with Tyler Buchner and what they have in Ty Simpson. With Jalen Milroe, at least you have a chance to win this football game in any football games going forward. If Alabama does lose this game, though, their playoff chances are done for. As I've said before, and in July, this is a team that can lose 2, maybe 4 games. That's very possible. I didn't expect them to, but it was in the range of outcomes. Another college football game audiences should have on upset alert is Florida State versus Clemson. Florida State last week most likely should have lost to Boston College had it not been for Boston College's plethora of penalties and their own mistakes. If Florida State loses this football game, their playoff chances, in my opinion, absolutely diminish, just because by December, the committee is going to be looking at it. They're going to see Clemson lost in a blowout to Duke. Florida State then lost to Clemson. Doesn't matter if it's going to be a close game loss or if Florida State gets blown out. Any kind of L from Florida State, they're out of the college football playoff. And I said when I predicted them to be in the college football playoff in July, this is a team that the only way they don't get into the college football playoff is by themselves. That was evident last week. It was their own mistakes. Looked like they came in looking at it like, oh, well, we just got Boston College. But next week, we're looking ahead to Clemson. Can't do that at all. If this team does that forward, I don't like their chances. I'm gonna go with Clemson this game. I like Clemson. I like where they're at in this game. Overall, the team Clemson I don't like, but Florida State is a good matchup for them. Now, the primetime game, the big game of all, everyone's been waiting for. Notre Dame and Ohio State. Ohio State now this time has to travel into South Bend. Kyle McCord gets his first start in a big game environment. How's he going to handle that? This is a Notre Dame defense that's really good against the pass. Ohio State is an offense that has all kinds of passing weapons. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get his, but there's also going to be the Notre Dame defensive backs that are going to get theirs. Specifically, Cam Hart, Ben Morrison, those two together. Now I know they haven't went up against very good passing offenses, but those two have made opposing teams go 7 of 22 for 100 yards. Now that's when other teams are targeting Hart and Morrison. Morrison last year as a freshman had 6 interceptions, an 82.2 PFF grade. It's going to be a tough test for those Buckeyes. What the Buckeyes are going to have to utilize is the run game. You cannot be running stretch runs against a fast, athletic Notre Dame defense. Ryan Day has to be on his A game. And a lot of Buckeye fans, they're saying, what type of Ryan Day are we going to get? Are we going to get conservative Ryan Day? Because when Ryan Day has off games, he is very, very off. Okay, there's no in between with Ryan Day's play calling. It's either an A plus or an F minus. So what type of Ryan Day are you going to get? Are you going to get the Ryan Day from the college football playoff against Georgia? If so, I like Ohio State's chances. I think they win that game. If he's still running stretch run to the boundary, it's going to be a long day for that Ohio State rushing offense and offensive line. Now, Notre Dame is bottom in the FBS in sacks a game, but what they make up, or what they lack in sacks, they make up for in blitzes and disguised blitzes. They're one of the top pressuring teams, while opponents have completed 44% for 2 touchdowns. Again, added context is that they haven't gone up against a passing offense like Ohio State's. But that still shows that with a young Ohio State offensive line replacing 3 new starters, how are they going to handle the stunts, the blitzes, the disguised blitzes from the backers, maybe even the disguised blitzes from the safeties? How are they going to pass that off? What's going to be the communication there? Because if there is miscommunication, it's going to be a long day for Kyle McCord. And with a young quarterback starting in a big game environment like this, you want to keep things scripted. You don't want to have him holding on to the ball too long. Although you do have supreme weapons, you want him early on to get the ball out, let everything. And the great play callers, they call games. Good play callers will call plays, but the great play callers will call games. So let me know, audience, who wins between Florida State, Clemson, Colorado, Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame? Who's taking home the W? And who are the X factors in some of these games? Along with what schematically is going to have to happen for one team to win or to increase their chances of winning? Let me know in the comments. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate your participation. So, out of all that slate of college football games, and of course, we're always looking forward to the college football playoff, the team that can take an L this week and still have a really good chance of making the college football playoff, in my opinion, is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Just because you look at what their schedule ahead is, you're going to have to face Penn State with Drew Aller. They're looking like one of the best teams in Penn State history. Then also you've got the Michigan Wolverines, probably one of the most talented teams that they've had in a long time. Then if you do beat both of those teams and you win the Big Ten championship, the committee is going to see that very highly and value that very highly. So even if Ohio State does lose to Notre Dame, they still have enough and a resume out there to make it up and say, well, we're worthy of the college football playoff. A couple more college football matchups that I want to discuss this upcoming week. You've got Whiteout in Penn State, Happy Valley. They're going to be going up against the 24th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. I'm really buying this Penn State football team just because I think they have one of the best overall rosters that they've had in a very long time with Drew Aller. I think he's a first-round quarterback. You also have Nick Singleton. He's looking like, to keep that tradition going of great Penn State running backs from Saquon Barkley and then Miles Sanders to now Nick Singleton. Keandre Lambert-Smith, really good wide receiver. It feels like every year Penn State's got a wide receiver that's really underrated. You're going from Dotson to Parker Washington. And then, of course, they have Kalen King, the dominant cornerback, looking like a first-round draft pick as well. So I like this Penn State team. Now, this is an Iowa Hawkeyes team that's always giving top-ranked teams problems no matter what. So don't be surprised if it's a close game still early on in the third quarter, but I still expect this Penn State team to get things going about the middle of the third quarter and win this football game. And then lastly, you've got UCLA versus going up against 11th ranked Utah. I like UCLA in this game just because it's Chip Kelly. He's always going to have a dynamic college offense. They're always going to be scoring a lot of points. Dante Moore, he's been named the starter. He is so good, especially as a freshman, what he's doing out there. This is a guy that in about 2 years, a lot of NFL draft scouts going to be talking about him and saying, wow, this guy looks like a franchise guy. He'll be a top 5 pick, or we're projecting him to be a top 5 pick. He has all the tools. He has the mechanics. He has the makeup of what you want as a quarterback. And if he leads his UCLA team to a win over a top-ranked opponent with a very good defense, that'll be the game where everyone realizes Dante Moore's potential, who he is as a football player, and the type of talent he has overall. That concludes this podcast episode for College Football Friday. I'll be designating that all Friday talk to college football. Appreciate my audience. Be a friend, tell a friend. Share this video with others who love football, who love sports, college football, all of that stuff. Follow me on social media, YouTube, TikTok, Spotify. Get on your phone, type in That's Textbook Sports, click on the profile, click follow, then head over to my Twitter account, type in That's Textbook Sports, click the profile, click follow. On this YouTube video, hit that subscribe button, turn the post on for all post notifications, like this video. You don't want to miss any content I have. Appreciate every one of y'all. Take care. Have a wonderful, blessed Friday. And until next time,